Hey everybody, um, just doing a little video here about FedEx Contracting, answering some questions that I get a lot in response to a video that I made last year. So I thought I'd just combine all those questions I get a lot and put them in one little video. And if you have any questions, you can put them in the comment section, or you can email me. I got my email at the end of the video. I don't mind helping anybody who's interested in FedEx contracting. So if there's anything I can help you with, please let me know. Let's get started. First of all, what is a FedEx contractor? FedEx contractors we're small businesses, medium-sized businesses, companies that contract with FedEx to make daily deliveries and pickups. You have to be incorporated, S Corp, C Corp, no LLCs or anything like that, in order to contract with FedEx. We used to be able to be individuals, but they did away with that probably about 5-6 years ago. We own the vans, we pay for the fuel, we maintain the vehicles, we hire the drivers to deliver and pick up the packages. So we pretty much do it all. We go into the terminal that FedEx owns, load the packages there, and then we take them out and deliver them in our trucks. I mentioned this before. Why did I make this presentation? It's basically to answer a bunch of questions that I get quite a bit of, people who aren't familiar with FedEx contracting. Last year I put out a video on how to contract, or not how to contract, but how to project business. If you're looking at buying a route, I actually made this Excel program because I was looking to buy somebody else's business, and the calculator they were using didn't look right. So I kind of built this calculator on my own to really get a good idea of how to evaluate if this business I wanted to buy was the right thing for me. And after I made it and I used it, I still use it. I don't care if you want a copy of it, shoot me an email, I'll send you a copy of it. I don't want anything for it. I just put it out there. If anybody wants it, they're more than welcome to have it. How do you get to be a contractor? The most common way right now is to buy somebody's existing business. They're not likely to give a new open route to somebody who's not already established. It usually goes to, because most areas are, if they're not covered by an official route, they're being covered by a supplemental route. And that guy, whoever has that supplemental, is going to be the one, with the in to get that as a new route. So, possession is, 90% of it. A lot of people ask, is this a good business? Is this right for me? It's hard to say. FedEx has very high expectations when it comes to service. Your service. Failure to service your areas can put your investment in your business at risk. There is no we'll clean up tomorrow, or we'll take care of it tomorrow, or you got to be ready to take care of business every day, 5 days a week, 6 days a week if you're got a home delivery and a ground situation. But there is no wait till tomorrow. And the expectation for service every day is 99.4% service. And what does that mean? It means if you take out 100 boxes and you bring back one box that you couldn't find, or was a closed business, or a bad address, and you bring one box back out of 100, you're at 99%. And technically that's failing. Now ideally you're going to have a lot more than 100 boxes, and but the expectation is the same for all size businesses. If you're a single route, the expectation is 99.4. If you're a multi-route van owner like myself, on an average day, my guys deliver anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 boxes. So we can bring a couple back and still deliver a high level of service. But fighting that 99.4 is, it's a big deal. And if you consistently under it, you're going to be under a microscope. A lot of people ask, what do I own with FedEx? Besides your vehicles, you in our model, which is the independent contractor model, you're buying the right to service a primary zip code on a year-to-year renewing contract. Basically, we sign a contract every, I think it's August or September, and it's good until the next year. And each year they'll have some addendums, they'll change some stuff, but it doesn't change too much. Maybe they'll change the pay rate or adjust something here or there, come up with new rules. And most, pretty much everybody, if you run a good solid business, they're going to re-sign with you. It's not very common that they wouldn't re-sign with you unless you were, you've been a problem for them all year. And honestly, if you're a problem with them all year, they'll probably try to get rid of you before the end of your contract. And they have ways of doing that. Having a primary zip code doesn't mean that you only have one zip code that you deliver to. You may be assigned other neighboring areas. If the zip code you have is very small and it only has 20 boxes a day, they're going to give you the small little towns around it and build it up to give a full day's work for that route. They're not going to waste a delivery route on one zip code if it's not productive. So now this is different than the ISP model, which is going on in different parts of the country. I'm in Texas. We're independent contractors. California, East Coast, and some other places in between are turning into the ISP model, which they assign you a geographical area and you negotiate your rate and all that. You can negotiate the years, everything on that. I don't know a whole lot about it, so I don't want to really comment too much on it. I'm not an ISP, so I really don't know a lot about the ISP program. But I'm sure somebody could comment in the section in this video if they know a little bit more about it than I do. Which is better? I don't know. I'm an independent contractor, and that's all I know. Like I said, if somebody wants to comment, they're more than welcome to. What is a PSA? I referenced a PSA in my first video for calculating and projecting the businesses, and it basically stands for primary service area. That is the contracted route that you have with FedEx. And obviously, the more PSAs you have, the bigger your company is going to be, because you're going to have, I got a PSA for this zip code, I got a PSA for this zip code, and so on and so on. So the more PSAs you have, the better. There's more bonus money for each individual PSA. There's multi-route bonus for each PSA. And then on top of the PSAs, you can also have supplemental routes attached to it, which pay a little bit less. And here I'll talk about what a supplemental route is. A supplemental route is any extra van that you add on top of your contracted PSA. So if I've got a contracted PSA that's got one van, and he's too busy, I want to add another van, I can put another van on that route. It's just paid differently. They're commonly used for growing volume. Residential right now is skyrocketing, so we're getting busier and busier in residential. So we're growing fast, and if they're not going to give you a PSA, you got to find a way to cover that area. You're going to use a supplemental. I currently have 11 PSAs, but I have 15 trucks on the road. So I have 4 supplementals that I run every day. So, I'm hoping that these PSA or these supplementals will eventually turn into a PSA. And, every time a new PSA becomes available, I'll bid on it. And since I'm covering those areas, I have a good chance of getting one. One of the things about a supplemental is they pay differently than a regular route. And it can be quite a lot. They don't have the same benefits. They don't have the bonus money. They don't have van availability. They don't have the quarterly. It's not put towards your quarterly bonus for multi routes. It's there's different things that you don't get. Now you can make them work if you have a high stop count and a low mileage supplemental. Say it's an in-town route and somebody can knock out 100 stops. You're going to get paid for those stops. You're going to get paid for those packages. And if you hit your thresholds, which are different for every route, you'll get some threshold pay, which makes up for some of that other stuff. But if it's a low volume route and it's high mileage, you're going to have a lot of maintenance. You're going to burn through a lot of tires. You're going to use a lot of gas. And, if he's only doing 50 stops, that 50 stops isn't going to bring in enough money to cover your cost, an employee, an extra van, gas, maintenance, all that. So, why it's not profitable, it may be something that you need to do to show the terminal, hey, I'm running the supplemental. I'm building a route out here. The next route that becomes available, if we get a couple PSAs, I fully expect you to look at this and, make a good decision if this is a route that should be turned into a PSA. And then once you get your PSA, then you get the extra core zone pay, you get the extra van availability, you get monthly bonus and part of your quarterly bonus added to that. Also on supplementals, during the peak season, when we have these, when volume shoots through the roof, you're going to need supplementals. I had 11 PSAs this year, all year, and I had 25 people on the road during Christmas. So it's one of those things you need to do at certain times of the year where it might not be profitable throughout the year. It may be it's kind of like buying somebody's route, but you're buying it with slowly and making payments. And you don't know how long you're going to be making payments. You don't know when a PSA is going to be available. You don't know that you're going to get that PSA. So it can be a gamble. A lot of people ask me, what should I do if I want to buy somebody's business? And I tell everybody, ride along with them. Spend a few days with their drivers. Really understand it. Because if you're if you're not familiar with the business and you think you can just come in and plop down some money and it's just going to generate you income, it might. But if you don't understand the business from the street level, you're going to have people problems. You're not going to understand, why is this van getting beat up? Why is this van maintenance so high? Why does this guy do 150 stops or 160 stops and this guy only does 50, and why am I paying him the same? Well, there's reasons for that. You need to understand the realities of the business. And a 160 stop route may be comparable to a 50 stop route if the 50 stop route is traveling 350 plus miles a day versus the 160 stop guy who's only traveling 90 stops a day or 90 miles a day. So, if I'm only driving 90 miles a day, I can drop 160 stops, no problem. But if I got to drive all over the country, out on the county roads, not hitting any in-towns, 50 is going to be a full day. And there's things built in with core zone that help compensate for that. So they may pay about the same, but they're doing vastly different amounts of stops. So that's one of those things that you gotta understand the business and how we get paid, and understand how hard it can be. Somebody humping 160, maybe that's not too bad. Maybe 50 stops out in the county, maybe it depends on the road. We got some awful roads that just beat up trucks. So you really need to understand what you're buying. And so right along, get involved, and see what it really is. And also, what I would do is verify the numbers. If somebody says, "Oh, it makes this amount of money," look at the settlements, look at their payroll, look at their maintenance costs, look at the condition of their fleet. Are these trucks getting up so beat up? Are they 15 years old? Are they going to need to be replaced? Do they need transmissions? Has this truck got 600,000 miles on it? You look at that kind of stuff. You got to be able to project. Okay, I'm going to need to replace this vehicle, in the next couple of years. Why is this truck, costing me so much? Why is this one costing, not costing as much? Those are the things you need to look at and really verify the numbers so you can make an accurate projection of your business. How do people determine the value of their business? Everyone has different ways of putting a price on their routes. I suggest using my spreadsheet from the video I mentioned before. See if the price they're asking for is reasonable, and you can pay it off in the near future. I have sections for that. If you borrow money, there's a section for that in the spreadsheet. And you can kind of project out how long am I going to be paying on this thing, and am I still going to be making money in the meantime? Because the more you borrow, the lower your return is going to be, and the longer it's going to take to recoup that investment. So I've said it before. If you want to copy my spreadsheet, I'm not selling it. I'm just giving it to anybody who wants it. My email's there right on the screen, and I think there's a link in the description too. A lot of people ask me, why do I see so many routes for sale? This business isn't for everyone. Most of us started out as single van driver with one van. I did. And as business has grown, we've had to go from drivers to businessmen. And some of us has figured it out. Some of us haven't. Some people don't have good relationships with their terminal management. Some terminal management is just bad. It's not their fault. It's just, there's good and bad. There's good and bad contractors, and there's good and bad terminal management. I have, in my terminal, we have, people who I think are terrible businessmen, and we have some good management, and we have some parts of the management that ain't so great. So, look into that stuff. Talk to the terminal management. Talk to other contractors in that building to find out, what they know. Why is this guy selling? Is it a crappy area that nobody wants to deliver, and it's too hard and it doesn't pay enough? Those are the things you want to try to find out. And some people are just, some of the older guys are just bitter and want to get out, and they're done with it. And some of them, we've got a situation where somebody who bought in didn't fully understand the business, and now he wants to get out right away. It wasn't right for him. He didn't do his due diligence, so he wants to get out, and hopefully he can get out with selling for what he paid for it. Is this a good investment? It's really a business, not an investment. An investment is you take money, you put it in the bank, or you put it in stocks, and you sit back and it does what it's going to do. This is a business. You have to run it. If you want to be an absentee owner, you can hire somebody to manage it for you. Your returns are going to be lower, but you really need to understand all the risks and have plenty of backup if there's a problem. I've seen situations where people somebody will buy in, they won't be here. They'll hire management, tell management to cut payroll. Their people get upset and they leave. They lose. They have high turnover. Well, FedEx doesn't care about your turnover. FedEx cares about the boxes getting delivered. So, is paying somebody an extra $50 worth losing them? Because if you lose them, depending on certain routes, it can take weeks or months for somebody to be good and productive on a route where it's back to you making, making a little bit of money on it. And if you lose a couple of months of profitability because you have to train and hire, and somebody's not going to be able to do as much as the guy who you just lost, all over 25 or 50 bucks, is that worth it? So that's one of those things you need to be aware of. For me, it's been good. I've been able to turn one van into 21 vans. I have $1 million business without the benefit of any college degree or anything like that. It's just hard work. And so it's been good to me, and it can be good for anybody if you're willing to work. It's long hours, and especially at Christmas and that, it's a lot of work. But there is a certain amount of independence, and I don't know that I could work for somebody else again. Thanks for watching. If you got any other questions, you can email me. If you want a copy of my spreadsheet, it's certainly available. Just hit me up. If you got any other questions, I'm available. I'm just people ask me, why are you helping me? I'm like, it's better for me if FedEx is successful. And the more contractors we have that are of a higher quality, the better the business is going to be, the faster we're going to grow. The more we grow, the more I grow. So that's my way of looking at it. And I'm in this for a good, the long haul. So I need a better, stronger company for everybody. So like I said, if you got any questions, please reach out. All right, thanks.